What is timecode and why do we care? I just bought this cable for my FX3 because with the newest firmware update, the FX3 can now handle timecode. And that's awesome because the FX9 is obviously meant to handle timecode. The FX3 was not. But with this cable, which has a BNC in, timecode is now an option for the FX3. So what is timecode and why do we use it? Timecode's just a clock. It counts in hours, minutes, it might even count in days. I don't even know, because I never look past hours. It counts in hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. It keeps different cameras, even a slate, sound mixer, all on the same time down to the frame. And that is wonderful for your editor in a multi-camera situation. Timecode in a lot of ways takes the place of a slate. Back in the day, you'd have a slate and you'd clap. And the reason you would clap a slate is to put a spike in the audio. And because audio was being recorded separately from camera, there'd be a spike in the waveform, basically one frame. You could match them up so that everything was perfectly in sync. It's the same way now. I actually use a slate fairly often on set because a lot of times I'm not running more than FX9, FX3, and maybe an external audio mixer. 3 sources, it's pretty easy to sync those up. And you might say, hey Ryan, Premiere and other programs will sync up via waveform anyway. They'll just be able to read it and sync it. That doesn't always work. A lot of in-camera scratch audio that just comes from the little pinhole mic on the camera isn't very good quality, and your editing software can't always read it properly. So having a slate's a good idea if you're not running timecode. Timecode's really nice when you're running multiple cameras, especially if you're on a shoot where you're running all day. You might have a lot of different clips. Audio separate, you got 3 or 4 cameras separate, each camera stopping and starting at different points. If you're running timecode on each camera and all those time clocks are in sync, your editor will sync it up, no problem. You'll know where everything is, nothing will be out of sync. If you're editing, you will love yourself for doing it. If you have somebody else editing, they will love you for running timecode. A lot of times on a slate, you'll actually see red numbers here, and that's timecode. And how you get the internal clocks on your different cameras and your audio mixer and your slate exactly in sync is use a timecode generator. I don't have one here. My brother has borrowed my timecode generators. I use Tentacle syncs. They're little app controlled boxes about this big, and they sync up via the Tentacle app. And you just put in the frame rate, you sync them all, they're all running the same time to the frame, and you plug those into each of your record sources, your mixer, your FX9, and now the FX3, and whatever cameras you've got running. It's best to have a timecode generator dedicated to each device. Usually, I mean, the Tentacle syncs are tiny. I plug it in, I have a little piece of Velcro, I Velcro it to the camera. Usually the sound operator's making sure everything's in sync. He can look on the app a few times throughout the day, make sure nothing has drifted out of sync, and if it has, he can resync it via the app. Another thing you can do is you can jam sync timecode. You can have 1 or 2 timecode generators. You will plug them into the camera, sync the camera's timecode generator up to the clock, which is the timecode generator, the Tentacle, whatever you're using, and you'll unplug it, plug it into the next camera, into the sound mixer, and so on, so that they're all in sync. The problem with that is, like any watch, or like if you've got a little alarm clock, or like the clock in your car, it slowly drifts off of the correct time. Cameras are no different, and that's called drift. And slowly throughout the day, especially if it's a longer shoot and say it's all day, by the end of the day, your sources are probably going to be out of sync by a few frames, and that can be a real pain for your editor. Anyway, that's timecode. It's really simple. It's just a clock that keeps all of your different record sources in sync throughout the day so that you don't hate yourself during post-production. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and if you don't have a dedicated timecode generator for each one of your devices, and you're jam syncing and not leaving the Tentacle or whatever timecode generator on the camera for the entire day, it's best to rejam multiple times during the day to prevent drift or minimize drift, because it's going to drift a little bit.